agenda. Nikki, Chris, would you like to come up to the table so we can get ready to... Okay, we are now on to dedicating local purpose road reserve as road. Welcome, Chris and Nikki.
It's pretty exciting. It's an exciting piece of
Kia ora.
You should all be experts in how this works, having received an educational briefing on these topics a little while ago. So
We
I'll
did.
pass over to Chris.
Thank you. And on the back of that very nice opening from the chair, the reason that we undertook that training was because this item was coming up and there will be potentially a few more. So we will take the paper as read. We are seeking your approval today for dedicating local purpose road reserve as road. The details of the property are noted in the recommendations. We're also seeking you to authorise the Chief Executive to take all necessary steps to give effect to this resolution. We're happy to take questions if there are any.
Are there any questions? Councillor Halliday.
Yes, through Madam Chair. Look, just one question. I was just curious to know, why is it a road reserve in the first place? Was it just something that was done a while back with regards to the style of access that it is down there?
Yes, it was. It was actually in Crown ownership, and so we had to actually look into the ownership of it, and it was one of these parcels of land that hadn't transferred through one of the acts, like changing over the years. So we actually had to apply for it to change from Crown to Council. But yeah,
So it's a bit more of a housekeeping scenario.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, because I know there's a water pipe under there, but I'm picking it's not a major pipe or anything along that sort of line. And I note it's been divided up to 3 lots, 2 access ways from State Highway, but no thought to they're putting housing in there at the moment. But we're sort of happy even if they do put housing in there, that's not going to, because there's nothing really under that, it's not going to be impactful. It's say if they put 20 houses in there at some stage, that will fit quite nicely with regards to the use of the road and stuff. Yeah, cool, lovely.
Just to confirm to your first question, the answer was no. To the second question, it was yes.
Lovely, thank you very much.
Councillor Coфord.
Oh, Nikki, thanks for that. Have the neighbours in the community been consulted with, and what's the outcome of their things?
Yes, they have. Yeah. So we did a mail drop to all the residents in Buckley Grove, and there's no objections received. And they all knew that we were presenting this paper today. We told them in the letter, and so they had an opportunity to come and speak today if they had any concerns.
Further details of our consultation are in paragraphs 32 and 33.
Councillor Wilson.
I was just wondering what, if any, impact would it likely have on neighbours? I can't see any myself.
There's none because
No.
it's already a formed driveway road. Yeah.
Councillor Halliday.
Happy to move, Madam Chair.
Do you have a seconder? Councillor Wilson. Bit of introduction.
Yes, look, I'll just very brief one. This is a great report here. I found it very interesting just around the corner from me. Another subdivision that's going to be happening as part of the Lindale area, if you like. But what I just wanted to note was the comms aspect of getting out and having a chat with the neighbours. and front-footing that. Thank you very much. We sometimes get pulled back for not being as on top of that space as we should be, but I thought it was fantastic to see that bit of work had been done, so thank you very much.
I'm not seeing any more indications that people would like to contribute to the debate, so I'll put it to the vote. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? That's carried. Thank you. So amendments to council delegations to staff. Welcome, Sarah. Sarah Watty.
Kia ora koutou. I will largely take this report as read. There's just a couple of matters in the report. First one is proposing the ability for council staff to make minor technical amendments to documents approved by council, where there are no material changes and no implications for the substance of the report or the decision made by council. So it's an administrative recommendation that has arisen, as I'm sure you're aware, on various occasions. That would be helpful. The second matter is there are various positional changes proposed as an outcome of recent reorganisation and other organisation changes needed. So there are changes proposed to councils, delegations, direct from council under the RMA. Happy to take questions.
Councillor Halliday.
Yeah, thank you, through Madam Chair. Excellent paper. Look, I really appreciated the actual interpretations of the listings of all the different roles and everything. Something I just did want a little bit of clarity on. Mana whakahono rohi is a concept by the sound of things where we engage with mana whenua. And that's, I just wonder if you could explain that a little bit more. I just was sort of aware of that relationship, but never had it really explained to me and that sort of stuff. Is it appropriate to ask for a brief understanding of what that is?
Yep. Can anybody answer that question?
I can do that. Thanks, Councillor. Through the Resource Management Act, it's forming a partnership with iwi. Allows you to pass on certain responsibilities through co-management, for want of a better word. For example, through mana whakahono arohi, you can delegate your monitoring responsibilities to iwi. Closer working relationship sitting around the table.
Yeah.
Would
it be a fair call to say from a guardianship perspective that's feeding in that aspect of aspect to the RMA as well?
Yep. And there's a couple of really good examples. West Coast Regional Council has a really good mana whakahono arohi. Northland Regional Council have quite a good arrangement. Far North District Council started working with Ngāpuhi on a mana whakahono arohi agreement. I'm not sure where that sits. Not widely used, but it is a mechanism under the current legislation.
And we have this in place, do we?
We don't here, no.
Oh, we don't?
No.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought we did. Okay, no, that's cool. Thank you.
There is a cost associated with setting up and funding the support of.
Okay, lovely. Thank you.
Oh, thank you,
Councillor
Madam Chair.
Coburn.
Sarah, thanks for that. Just a quick one. I just noticed reference, I can't find it at the moment, but I was reading it last night, reference to the emergency COVID planning applications, and it gives the council a delegation to make decisions on those. Was there a reference to that?
You may well be right, but if you were able to help me find
I'll
that reference.
I might have to come back. It's just a little bit of a concern because it's quite a big one, Matt.
It's not in the schedule
Right.
of relevant
Okay.
legislation, potentially.
Okay. Thanks. I'll keep hunting.
Councillor Pravanov.
Yes, through the chair. I have two questions. One relates to paragraph 10. It talks about examples of technical amendments which would include but will not be limited to reference to legislation that has been changed. And I just want to understand, so if legislation changes, potentially the rules and regulations change, and to me that's more than a technical amendment.
I think an example would be if legislation was referenced in a document, but the document wasn't necessarily about the legislation. It might have been it could be a strategy where there is a need to reference that legislation, that then that's reviewed and identified that that's now an error, but it doesn't make any material change to the actual strategy in place. So that I can't. I mean, that potentially could happen all the time, and whether you'd be reviewing those strategies to pick those things up is another question. But that would be one example. I think if there was a change to anything in the document as a result of the change in legislation, then this would not be appropriate.
Okay, thank you for that. So my other question, I appreciate having all the sections of the RMA present. I have a question in relation, it's on page 31, the top one, the advisor recreational tracks and trails. It seems to me that they have got the power, well, emergency works and the power to take preventative and remedial acts. And I'm just wondering whether they've got the power to grant emergency acts of work, emergency works. And if that is the case, whether that is actually the right level of decision making.
I'd need to pull the sections up and have a close look at them, and I'd suggest now isn't the time to do that.
Okay.
For that. So if you had concerns around that,
Yes.
having looked at that, then
Just to double check.
we could potentially bring that back next time.
Okay.
I think would be the best way to deal with that. Or and when you receive these agendas, if you do ever have questions like that you want to flag with me in
Yeah.
advance, I think that would be the best way to handle where there's a need to actually
Yeah.
deep dive into the legislation, where it relates to positional changes and whether they are at the right level.
Yeah, okay, so that's 330 and also 333 as well. Okay, thank you for that.
Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, my question is, are delegations delegatable? And presumably, if they are, is the fallback position to the CE? Is that the...
So it depends on the legislation. So under the RMA, the CE can't subdelegate. That's not permitted. Same under Local Government Rating Act. Under the LGA, they are. So the way that the delegations deal with the LGA and other key legislation where they are delegable is different to how we deal with the RMA. So hence, so we have two documents. So there's council to CE delegations that specifies the things that are able to be delegated. And there are some exceptions in that document, and then there are these RMA ones where we will, whenever any change is needed, we will bring that back to you because that is a requirement.
Yep. Okay, no, that's good.
Oh. So I'm looking for somebody to move the recommendations.
Happy to move
Councillor
that.
Halliday, seconded Councillor Pravanov. Right of introduction, waived, any debate? So I'll put that to the vote. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? That's carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
So moving to reports and recommendations from community boards. Who have we got here? Right.
So, kia ora koutou. Through you, Madam Chair, we'd just like to take this report as read, and we're happy to answer any questions or ask the relevant GM to answer any questions.
I just want to signal that I'm going to ask you a question, but I just need to find the spot first.
Yeah, I'm finding my spot too.
Just had one quick question.
Yep.
Hang on. With regards to the recommendation from the Waikanae Community Board and the response back, how does that work with regards to going back to the Waikanae Community Board? Does that come back as a report or as an answer from this table as such? that we've supported the officer's recommendation here.
There's no set process for that to happen. I could email the chair and inform him of our decision. Would probably be the appropriate thing to do.
I just thought it'd be nice to make sure we've got that
Yeah,
loop
good
closed.
suggestion. Thank you. Yeah, maybe we should have a consistent way that we do that. I think we've talked about that before, actually. Michael Moore?
Thank you, Mayor Holbrook. Look, this subject has come up many years in a row, I understand. It's not a new subject for this community. It's a well-loved facility. It was gifted to the community many years ago, and there was even talk some years ago that children would always have free access there. I don't think that still is the case now. It is paid access for everybody. However, look, addressing some of the notes here in the report of not recommending to extend the hours, I'd just like to address some of them, and I think a number of these can be placated quite easily. First, I don't think weather is a rightful concern that it wouldn't work. Certainly in April, mid-April, it declines. We're asking to extend for probably only 2 weeks. The community has talked about this extensively online. There was enormous, we always know social media is fraught space, but in this subject, it received an enormous amount of support locally. So there was even thoughts that we could start the season later. If 20 weeks is budgeted and funded for this season opening of this pool, then we could suggest there shouldn't be any financial impact by this council if we move the dates around. Staffing is highlighted as an issue as well. University students already are unavailable in March in most part. So there could be a way that could be looked at between the other aquatic facilities. So, look, I would like, and I'm sure Councillor Privanoff and maybe Councillor Wilson want to add some more context to this, but I would even propose that we could look at a trial system to see how well it's received in the community for next year, because it has come up annually, this subject, I'm told, for quite some time. There might be even a chance to reduce the hours to soften some of those costs, reducing the temperature of the pool if that's required, in terms of the cost that incurs. So there's a number of ways we can do to skin this cat to make it available to the community and what they're asking us to do.
Thank you for that. Councillor Wilson?
Yeah, I'll just follow up on that. At the community board, there was quite a bit of discussion about this, and there was absolutely a consensus that the pool, Waikanae pool, be open to the end of daylight savings. And we traversed all of the issues. I mean, it's one of those things where we have community boards for a reason. It wasn't a frivolous decision. There was quite a bit of discussion to and fro, and so that was the position that the community board fell on. It raised, so there's a bigger question here about if a community board makes a decision for its community, how much weight should that have? And I think if it was well discussed and well investigated, then it should carry a lot of weight. So I would absolutely endorse what Michael just said, and I would be adopting the recommendation from the community board. Now, I'm sure the staff had reasons to say, no, we don't want to do that, but the community are aware of most of those reasons and are perfectly happy to continue with this. And that's a consensus across the community board. There's nobody on the community board who's going, no, that's a bad idea. Everybody thinks it's a good idea.
So are you signalling that you would like to move an alternative recommendation? I think rather than putting these to the table and it failing, it might be better to do it that way. As usual, we're kind of informally suspending standing orders as we do with this paper. Councillor Privanoff?
Yes, so thank you. I just wanted to follow up on Mr. Moore and Councillor Wilson in relation to staff recommendations. So just quickly pulling up the Met Service data, which is actually taken at the Waikanae pool. shows you that the temperatures in March and early April are far better than what they are in November. There is half the amount of rain in that time frame at the end of the season. It's my understanding that there are multiple school events that are closed in November because of the weather. So it does actually make some sense to move the time frame along a bit. As it's been pointed out, university students go back in mid-February, so there is actually a month in which, up until now, or even if this last year, that the staff have, that basically the pool is operated with adequate staff. And even if that is an issue, I know previously when the Paraparaumu pool was closed for maintenance, the Waikanae pool was extended, and I think what they did is they went on one shift instead of two. So if you started at 8:30 in the morning and you went till about 6, that could be a way around it as well, which would actually minimise the amount of extra money spent and that optimise the pool and the I suppose the nice weather that we often have that time of the rains at that time of the year. So I went to the community board meeting. I heard the person who came along and spoke, who basically was speaking on behalf of herself, as well as was it 40 or 70 odd people who spoke, who basically made comments on a Facebook page wanting this pool to be left open. So so I think somehow I certainly would like to see the wording of this change so that
Well, it's not just a change of wording, it's a change of what we're asking for.
That's exactly right, yes. And I think as Waikanae residents, we are here representing our community, and they've spoken pretty loudly on this matter.
Okay, can we have the recommendations up on the screen so we can maybe come up with something that we're happy with?
Yep.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, point of clarity, Madam Chair. Can I just ask what the process has been here? We've had something that's come to the community board. They've done a recommendation that they want more information. The information that's come back here, has that been presented back to the community board per se for them to look at to see whether they wanted to pursue this opening or not?
No.
It hasn't. I do wonder whether that should be part of this process. In other words, leave this still on the table, that information go back to the community board to see whether they want to put another recommendation based on the information that comes back. See, maybe the EC would like to comment on that. That's just a thought. I'm happy to make a call on this one today. I'm just, it's just putting it out there.
So I think if we go with, let's hear what Councillor Wilson's suggestion is, because that could well incorporate a step.
Certainly, no troubles at all. I
Councillor
just want some
Halliday's
clarity
just
on the
suggested.
process, that was all.
So Councillor Wilson, what's your...
Yeah, because, or just a brief preamble, because ultimately if the community board makes a decision about a council asset, it's council's responsibility to
Community
run the
boards can't make decisions about
No.
council assets.
No,
It's not in their
exactly.
delegations,
so
just to
that's-
clarify.
Yeah, so what the community boards do is make a recommendation about it, right?
Yeah.
So ultimately it comes down to council. So in this recommendation, we've got A, B and C all stand because we're just noting that. D, that council resolves not to pursue an extension. I would just change that to council resolves to pursue an extension of the Waikanae pool opening season at this time. And then that would, after that, then there would obviously, there would be some come back to the community board after that. But at this stage, that's what the community board has asked for. They've asked to pursue an extension. And so that's what I'm moving. I'm going to move.
I just wonder about the definition of the word pursue, because what we've been told is that it's not feasible by council staff, and then we're asking them to do something that they have provided a report to us that says it's not feasible. But we can ask them to do further work, which would include going back to the Waikanae Community Board with this information. So I would suggest that we go that council resolves to further investigate an extension of the Waikanae pool opening season.
Yeah. The only thing, in defence of staff, I would say that staff have investigated the feasibility. They haven't come back and said it's not feasible. They're just saying that they can't recommend it. There's a big difference between it being feasible and not being recommended. It is feasible, of course it is, but they're not recommending it for reasons. But yeah, I mean, your solution.
So
as long as this
let's
thing
just look.
doesn't die today.
We're not in a hurry.
Yeah,
So
that's
let's just agree to do some more work on it. Okay. So instead of D, that council resolves not to pursue, we say that council requests staff to further investigate.
And can I suggest with the community board? So maybe at the next community board, then there can be a resolution sorted out.
The chief executive.
Oh, sorry.
I'm not going to talk about this, but I'm going to talk about the long-term plan. And I'm going to talk about the
Could I have some quiet, please?
400-ish submissions that we've received. And whilst 60% of them agree with the 17% rate increase, everyone I've spoken to have said it is extremely hard to find a dollar at the minute. If I look at our pools, parks, libraries, and all of those other good community services we have, I've asked staff to see what it would cost to provide these free of charge. Whilst it's not a great deal of money in the scheme of things, when we're looking at 17%, it's probably another 0.6, right? Which is a challenge within itself. So at some point in time, when our financial strategy allows for us to be a lot more lenient and provide some of those free community services, I'm really confident that we'll be able to do that. But at the moment, it's really, really tough. And I've got to thank you for the support that you've given me through the consultation document and what we've gone out with, because those proposals have been really, really challenging for our communities. So you're asking us to go back and revisit advice that we've given you, and maybe that advice might have better financial information into why we can't extend the hours of the pool, which is something we need to explore a little bit deeper. Because when I look at some of what we've got here, some of it maybe needs a bit more of a work on. So I'm just checking myself as I'm talking through what I'm saying. So if you do give us that instruction, we'll go back, we'll look harder at what it will cost us to deliver those services, noting that everything does cost. We heard from some highly regarded former central government employees who spoke about reductions in level of service during our recent hearings, and here we are looking to add to our levels of service without understanding what the cost of that looks like. Now I know on the face of it we talk about 2 weeks, we talk about 3 weeks, but everything costs money, right? And so for us it's about understanding how the money go around fits or doesn't fit. So noting where I've started and where I've landed myself, there's a little bit of change. So that could be an opening for us to consider.
And it's just made me think of another way forward with this request. Can we bundle it up as a long-term plan request and hear back through that process, because it will have rates implications? So we'll do that. We could do that, which would mean that D would that council request staff to provide further information to the community board and council through the long-term plan process, including cost implications. Hang on a minute. Could I have Councillor Wilson's microphone back on, please?
Just at the community board meeting, cost wasn't considered an issue. It was purely and simply about staffing. So nobody said this is going to cost us X amount more money, because the plan was just, it wasn't about adding more time, it was about changing just changing the time. So you're taking 2 weeks off here and you're adding it on here because this bit doesn't work and this bit does. So it wasn't about, it didn't look like there were any cost implications at all. It was about, their issue was about whether or not they could get staff at that time. And to Jocelyn's point, and so there were two things. It was staff and weather. So the weather, that's been repudiated because the Met Service data shows that actually that wasn't an issue. The staffing, I think Jocelyn's addressed that, but happy to have some more chats around that. But I don't think there are any net cost consequences.
Well, don't think.
If it was fully staffed, for those 2 weeks, and it was fully staffed for those 2 weeks, it doesn't cost any more for the staff at that time. The question was, can you get staff for those 2 weeks? And if you can't, well, you can't. It's not open. But if you can, well, then you'd open it. So to me, that it seemed like a no-brainer. But yeah, I don't know that there will be any cost consequences. It was looking like it was going to be fiscally neutral.
The gas boiler.
That was my understanding.
Gas boiler.
Oh, and the gas boiler. Yeah.
So it's not clear, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not clear from the report that you're planning to take away 2 weeks. It's just about extending. So it is 2 weeks longer that you keep the pool open, right?
No. It's the same number of weeks, it's just that you're moving them that way.
That's not what the report says
No,
or
no.
the recommendation. So it's all really unclear
Yes.
at the moment. So I don't think we can make any kind of decision around it today. So I think, is everybody happy that we
Take Darren's
bundle this
suggestion
into the
yeah.
long-term plan? Because if it's not a change in service levels, we could say through that it's not a change in service levels, and it just allows for some kind of
Scheduling.
structure within which it can be investigated further.
It's a scheduling thing, but that still leaves us with a position where I wouldn't be comfortable with D, because D is saying we're not investigating anything, it's done deal and you're tough.
No, look at the D on the screen. Okay, and meantime we'll go to who's next?
Here we go. see?
Jocelyn.
Specsavers.
Thank you. So I just wanted to follow.
So Councillor Pravanov's microphone, please.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to provide a little bit of context with the community board over this last week. So there has actually been a lot of conversations around this, and the chair of the community board is not present here today because he's quite ill, but everyone is actually supporting an extension of this pool. And, you know, I think that is what the desired outcome is. At the end of the day, if that's not going to work, then, you know, maybe shifting it would be a good option. You know, so this pool, what it earns over the summer is more than what the Otaki pool earns in a whole year that it's open. So this pool actually carries all the other pools. In terms of, you know, bringing this back, I would like staff to reconsider the reasonings they have given some of the information that has been provided today, and with some analysis of cost of extending the pool as well as potentially moving the season along by 2 weeks. I'm very aware, having a university son who has been a lifeguard, that they basically have to finish their exams and they're virtually on the next plane up here to be able to start. So there is actually pinch time at the other end of it as well. They've got to have training. They've got to come up here outside before the season starts for training. So there are some other things that are going on here as well.
Look, I'd really like to just move on from this. I know I've got 4 more lights, and I know you've been waiting quite a while,
Okay.
Councillor Kirby. But I think if we just move what's on the screen, we can have all these discussions as we
Okay,
move forward.
okay.
If somebody's got something that needs to be said today relating to the recommendations that you now see on the screen, which is that we're going to do more work on it, then keep your microphone on.
Yeah, so I just say one more
And please
thing.
be
If
brief.
you actually start heating the pool, slightly later,
no,
it's going to be
we're
easier
not going to
do
talk about operational stuff,
maintaining
or
it.
we're not going to debate the merits or not of keeping it open
Happy to
longer
move.
today.
Happy to move this, Your Worship.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Kirby, seconded by Councillor Wilson. So any further debate on whether we should consider this through the long-term plan process or not? Councillor Kirby, right of introduction.
I think in terms of, I agree with what the CE has said to us in regards to the situation we're in, where we've heard from our public about reducing costs. If we open this can of worms at this particular time without bringing it through the long-term plan, I think we might find ourselves in a bit deeper hot water. So I would support these 4 recommendations as they are, as I've moved them, and I'd ask for the support of the rest of the table for that.
Michael.
Thank you. I don't have the ability to put a motion of change, but I think the word extension here will take our staff down a path of investigating something which is doomed to fail. We're not asking for an extension. The community is not asking
That's
for an
what
extension.
your recommendation said.
I see that. I note that. But all the conversation at our community board meeting and the 78 online about the subject say we're happy to move this date out, and that will minimise cost implications. That's just what I want to add to this conversation.
Yeah, I think staff have got that message today, and we'll make sure as we go through that that's made clear. Thank you, Michael. Councillor Halliday?
Yeah, Madam Chair, maybe I'm getting the wrong end of the stick on this one, but something I'm a little bit uncomfortable about is starting to ask staff to change their mind when it comes to recommendations. We've had recommendations here from staff. We may or may not agree with them. That's not the issue here. It's up to us to make the decisions based on the information that's given to us and the advice that's given to us by staff. No, we don't have to agree with what officers say, but I get a bit uncomfortable when we start pressuring officers because we don't agree with the information that they're giving us. We don't agree with their recommendations. We don't have to agree with their recommendations. That's why we are at this table. We make those decisions, and we will wear those decisions. But I think it's important that I think there's a good bit of information. There's a little bit more being asked for, and I'm happy to support what Councillor Kirby has put forward. Like I said, I'm just a little bit uncomfortable when we start questioning our officers. We want them to give us good information. We want to give us what they consider to be their informed opinions and that sort of stuff. And if we don't want to move forward with that, that's fine. That's our call to make as councillors. So I just wanted to voice that with regards to the officers' recommendations here and the fact that we will be making the decisions as we move forward, whatever that may be.
Yeah. Well, I'm not seeing any more lights. I think it's really important. Councillor Wilson.
Well, just very briefly, but the broader philosophical point here is that there has been a political decision that's made that the staff have disagreed with. And so the kind of governance operational model, and that's where community boards are slightly confusing, because if council makes a decision and staff don't like the decision, well, that's not how it works. The decision has been made. You get advice. But in a community board situation where a governance group have made a decision, to have the decision just overridden, I think is without some further negotiation at least or discussion, then I think it gets undermining, particularly of community boards. So if you want to give effect to community board decision-making processes, then you kind of have to. And this is, you get this tricky stuff every now and then, but it's very rare. I mean, this is incredibly rare. And I think this is probably a result of misunderstanding more than anything else. And this process will tease that out, I think.
Yeah.
That's.
Well, I mean, I'll just say my piece now. So that's the reason why I've suggested putting it, kind of treating it as a late submission into the long-term plan process so that it has that due consideration. There's the discussion that happens with the community board, and we have a bit more time just to tease this out rather than saying a flat no. Having said that, the implication today that community boards can make decisions about levels of service in their own communities is actually not correct. Bede could come in here and say that he wants to reopen the Raumati pool, but we're not going to do that, right? Just because the community board says so, and I know that's a bit more of an extreme example, but all we can get from community boards is recommendations, and then we have to weigh them up in terms of what we deliver across the district, as is our oath at the beginning, right? Including the Waikanae ward councillors, who shouldn't, even if they sit on a community board, once they sit at this table, it's a district-wide hat. So I'm okay with this. It just means we can have more of a look at it. We can get the information back to the community board, and we've formalised how to put this into some kind of process rather than making a level of service decision on the fly, which to me is irresponsible. So I'll pass back now to Councillor Kirby for right of reply.
Which I will waive on the nod, with the caveat that we did miss out of D. There was a reference specifically to the cost implications, which isn't up there, because I think that is the key kicker that we're missing in that space. But do we need to put that in?
No, I think it'll automatically happen.
Okay, great. Fine.
Yep.
Let's go there.
Cool. Put it to the
Put it
vote.
to the
All in
vote.
favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Against? That's carried. Thank you. We found a way through. Awesome. So now we come to 11, confirmation of minutes. Okay, so let's refocus. We have some minutes here. Do I have a mover for these minutes, which are on page 43 of Councillor Agendas, moved by Councillor Halliday, seconded by Councillor Kirby. Any discussion? All in favour? Aye. Against? No. No, I didn't say no. Yeah, that's carried. Okay, I usually get that right, even though I do it fast. Okay, so they're confirmed unanimously, just to. So now we, moving into public excluded, move Councillor Kirby, seconded Councillor Coford. All in favour? Aye. Against? That's carried. Thank you for your attendance, those who are watching online or watching a recording.